That should provide for them they should provide a way that the parents can have that chapati at home. But I don't think niliona machine ingine hapo, they want to bring a machine whereby they want to produce a million chapatis. A million chapatis we have 55 million. It means that within 2 days, man, everybody has chapati. In Kenya, everybody, whether you're president or you are born yesterday, you have a chapati, you can eat it, and it'll be a good thing also. But also, they need to provide a way. I hear what you're saying, and you're telling us that the teachers doesn't know even what they're doing, and it's so unfortunate that even if the teachers doesn't know what they're doing, then how the student will get something. So it's so unfortunate about that. And thank you for that. You'll come back again to say something about the same. I see Mugala here. I see Ben Lux and the Godfather on the mic. You can request a mic. Ben Lux. uh, yes, it is your time. Then Godfather. In that order. Then Boss. Uh, as we proceed, I see Chacha Mora. Murai is also coming here. Go ahead, Ben.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, what I wanted to talk about is because it seems like um, the the recurring theme here is economy, and it seems like the regime really did not have a very good agenda for the economy, and um, I think there are some things they could have done right, but they just were not very well executed. And I'll take for instance the affordable housing. In itself, it's a job creator, but it's in the manner it was implemented. Because when you look at the supply chain, when you're considering affordable housing, you have a lot of moving parts there, which ideally can create jobs. But I think the biggest challenge they've been having is um, implementing this agenda in a way that is impactful throughout the country. Because honestly, affordable housing may be just be sustainable within Nairobi because Nairobi like generates maybe around above 60% of all the GDP. So that's where you're most likely to really get um, people taking advantage of those affordable housing. So the rest of the country really, there's really no impact. And this is where I think they're really having that challenge to where, hey, people are unemployed. You don't have ideas on how to create jobs. People have to move to Nairobi to get employment. And now it seems like the the regime has no choice than having to come up with a handshake. And now see they're approaching the various principles from various political parties, and then the voters are kind of like more smarter now. They are like, hey, wait a minute, that is not going to impact me in any way. We need new ideas. How can you create an economic agenda that is going to impact somebody in Luro Nyanza, an economic idea that's going to impact somebody in Wajir? And my thought is, if I was the president's advisor, because his ideas were not bad, they've been replicated elsewhere and produced results. It could have been like, hey, schools are falling apart. How about if that agenda was actually reconfigured to construct schools? Because every constituency has a lot of schools. And if you channel that money to the constituencies to where schools are being refurbished, you're going to impact almost every single person in the in the country, and it's going to be more money in their pocket. So that way, it's those kind of things. Also, actually, could have also be configured in a way that you're creating housing for civil servants. They are all over the place. And also, without forgetting the police officers, they live in really bad shape. Police officers. How about an affordable housing program for police officers because it's easy to recoup that money back when you have civil servants because they have payroll, they're funding the revenue basket. So it's easy to do it that way because the taxpayers are not even going to be losing their money because you're getting that money off of the payroll. So that's one way where I think president had a good idea. It was poorly executed, or people just really had different agendas of not really like benefiting themselves. So so the other thing I'm thinking, because Nairobi is like 60% of the revenue. Nairobi is so huge. The resources are running out. We need to break down that city and come up with a 10 to 20-year plan to where services that are being provided within Nairobi can actually be isolated. Make Nairobi just be a business center. Look for somewhere else, another location where you can set up an administration location. Look for somewhere else where you can set up an industrial center. They don't have to be Nairobi. And by doing that, you're spreading out the national cake. We have so much for everybody to eat. Even the political class can eat, but they're just eating without manners. They need to change how they are eating. They have to be able to put everybody in their plans. When you shift, maybe you create Kisumu to be an industrial center, you're going to be creating a lot of jobs in Kisumu. And you don't need a handshake. People don't need a handshake to feel like they're in the government. No. When you do that, and there is a good example like Konza, in a few years, Konza will be there will be a lot of employment being generated that way. This is just one way that they can actually change people's lives. Another way they could have actually, okay, I know the president had this affordable. They had the fertilizer where they were subsidizing the fertilizer. That's a good idea, but it needs to be done equitably. We don't need to have, hey, certain sections of the country they're receiving more than others. There needs to be equity, and that's a really good plus. So the other thing that I think the government should have done is what we call value addition. Value addition. I'll give a good example in Tanzania. They're the bread basket, Transoia and Narok. The government should have come up with an agenda where now the farmers have been just harvesting maize for 60 years. We need to we need to move a notch up to where, hey, we're going beyond just harvesting. We're gonna be packaging this and distributing them. That's value addition. So farmers now don't have to worry about, hey, for how long do I need to store my maize so it doesn't go bad? Or for how, they don't need to worry about how much will the government buy my maize this year. No, the price is going to be set. And you don't have to worry about, hey, an influx of importation. So that's really one another thing, just like they do it in the sugarcane, where there is value addition. You're crushing that sugar up to that's being packaged and being distributed. And these setting up all these value addition units, it creates jobs. Because now, if you're setting up an industry to do that, you're creating jobs, and these are sustainable jobs in the long run. So those are some of the small ideas that are very impactful in the long run. And I was just hoping that the government could really pick up on that. When we had Kibaki, Kibaki did a lot of great things. And I'll give a very good example. We are here talking on this X platform just because he pulled is it an underground cyber cable all the way from Dubai, and now Kenya is one of those countries that they have a lot of digital consumers, digital entrepreneurs, because you're just trying to empower people, provide people with infrastructure, alafu wanajipanga, provide people with infrastructure, alafu wanajipanga. The issue of housing, the same thing. The government should not have really gotten into building the homes. The government should just have done simply provide infrastructure, fiber optic cables, sewage, electricity, namaji, and then private sector picks from there, and they will hire a lot of people because private sector is the one that creates jobs. Government is not supposed to be in the business of doing that. Government should be an enabling vehicle. When you do that, you create more jobs, it's more revenue, the government will collect more revenue rather than taxing the population out of, into poverty. That just doesn't work like that. So those are the things that I think could have really helped for this government. So the other thing is, I know we blame ourselves, or we are not making the right decision at the ballot. Hey, what does the latest revelation tell us? It seems like all along we've been making the right decisions. We've been electing the right people. But it seems like, hey, what SK Machero was saying, that elections somehow gets manipulated. So we have to really think about fixing that. And I'll quote what Okiya Mteta has consistently been emphasizing. Elections should be final at the polling station. There's this whole idea of, hey, having all these tallying centers and all that. This is where they create opportunities for to manipulate elections. We've been making the right decisions all along, and hey, we cannot blame ourselves. We need to fix a few things here and there. That's it. I yield my time.
Thank you so much, Ben, and I really appreciate your idea. I wish the government could have been listening what you're saying to take action on the same. But also the question that I have, as the other speakers coming in, what Machare was saying. So what can we do? He has been there. Why could he not say it then? Why now? Those are the questions that I was asking myself. Why this revelation now? And then, as a people, 2027 is coming soon, and by elections are coming soon, and so many things happening. What are we going to do? And Ben, thank you so much for reminding us that. And there's so many ways that this government can support the people, but we are not seeing them coming out. But that's why Mutufulani was saying the
Mhm.
elite are together now to manipulate the people, and that one is the problem. So guys, follow each other.
To be at the pressure point and discuss, state of affairs or the state of the nation, as it were. So yes, thank you so much, and I think uh, the speakers who have spoken. Here, Macharia, S. Macharia told us that yeah, elections are manipulated. It's already something that we know. Only that we trust him a little bit because he has the data. He had the resources to get the data across all corners of the country, all the four corners. So our suspicion has just been confirmed, which is actually a good thing. However, how do we move forward from there? And is that the only aspect of uh, of leadership or country leadership that we're looking at? So when you talk about the state of the nation, elections are very important. We elect our leaders through, that universal suffrage. We hope that it should be free and fair and verifiable. We saw how Kenyans view, the referees of elections when we lost the former chairman of IEBC. People had very mixed reactions to it. It says a lot about what we think about our elections, whether there is integrity or lack thereof in the results that we consume after the process, whether the process is more of just a rubber stamping aspect or maybe there is some credibility to it. So, away from that, my take is on leadership. On Thursday and Friday, one of our friends hosted a conference on purpose-driven leadership, and we realized that from that conference, and of course over the engagements we've had here and in many other fora, what we lack most is leadership as a country. However, we must also accept that we elect those who are amongst us. So we are not any different from those who have already been elected to office. So how can we change this trend? And we learned that maybe we need to be very intentional when we begin nurturing probably younger people. It was very interesting when I heard Mwalimu speaking here, Phil. So we need to nurture these people either from the family aspect, which is the family unit. We go to school, we need to nurture ethical leadership as well in schools, so that by the time, talk about the next generation, this generation, beta that are, were born from the 25th of January or so, thereabouts, by the time they're 15 or so, they're done with high school, then we'll have developed a different kind of psyche of the nation. We have some ethics in leadership, we have integrity, people who basically would want to bet for something that is good for the nation. And this is something that we need to be very intentional. Maybe we know we cannot change the old dog so much. They may not be very quick to learn the new tricks. But how about we be intentional in terms of bringing these aspects that we think are very critical in trying to manage the state of affairs of our nation, beginning with the young ones? That's the first challenge. Away from that, politicians have gotten away with so much. As much as we say we have a very progressive constitution, which should also be punishing, there should be some level of implementation, so to speak. We need to see that when someone messes up with the country's economy in terms of whether they've been involved in corruption or some other abuse of power, there should be some element of punishment that needs to be seen to be happening, so that there's some bit of justice. But unfortunately, what we see is the political class have a way of coalescing among themselves to protect each other, and how more often than not they get away with it. They never really face the consequences of these ill manners that they portray to the general public. So how can we strengthen the judiciary to ensure that it is as independent as it should be, to ensure that there are consequences for every actions or omissions meted by this political leadership? So that is something that we also need to ponder about. So how do we strengthen the judiciary? Currently, we see that even the 7 judges of the Supreme Court, the justices of the Supreme Court, are fighting for their own lives. And that means that there's very little, if any, independence within the judiciary as well. I do not want to presume whether they are guilty or otherwise. We'd like to see what the outcome of maybe an inquiry will be. But that said, we need to have a strong judiciary as an element that could help us as citizens in trying to put, the checks and balances of power in place. Then there's this other aspect, the media, the fourth estate, and that's where we come in. The traditional media has failed us, obviously, from the statements from SK Masharia. We now know that the traditional media is not a partner in this struggle. So can we do better? And what is doing better in this case? Since we have the platform, as someone here suggested, Ben looks suggested that due to access to internet that we have, or other technological and social media platforms that we may have access to, we are at a better place than maybe our parents or the generations that came before us. How can we harness this to our advantage? And to give credit to Kenyans, I think we saw a bit of this, last year, especially in June protest and the protest before and also after, a bit of that people coalesced, people reorganized themselves around this in social media platforms, and we saw something. We saw that unity of purpose. However, you must be objective in your messaging. We may have to be consistent. We have to be, because it seems that we have lost the momentum. However, if we lose the momentum, the political class are very cunning. When push comes to shove, they'll always try to come together and protect themselves. However, we citizens, we seem to be very divided when it comes to this. I think we still go back to our cocoons of either tribes, or political affiliations, or some other aspects that mostly have slowed us down in terms of a movement. So these are some of the issues we need to look into if our role, to check and balance the power, so to speak, will have to be effective. But most importantly, so that we may have to change the political leadership. With that introduction, I'd like to yield for now. Thank you so much, Hillary. Hillary, I'm yielding. Pressure point. Yes. Meanwhile,
Thank
yes,
you so
we
much.
welcome you.
Yeah, thank you so
Yes.
much, Godfather, for your contribution, and we really appreciate your presence. Yeah, you have said so well, and yeah, we are seeing so many things happening, and we want to know what is way forward about the revolution that we're seeing now is coming on board, and many other things. Before George, I see Chacha. Chacha, go ahead, then George, then Ronyo, in that order.
I'll pass it to George and maybe I'll speak later. I'm not in a position to.
All
I'm only
right.
listening.
Thank you so much. George, are you in a position to come in?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I can come
Okay.
in. Can you hear me
Yeah, we
well?
can hear you.
Thank you so much. I had problems initially, but I managed to come back, Hilary. I'll just dig into our conversation today, checks and balances of power. And constitutionally, I usually say that our constitution says that the ultimate power rests with the people, and that's the citizens. We can exercise it directly or indirectly, but ideally we can't all exercise it directly, and this leaves us to only exercise it indirectly, and that's through the ballot that we get to do that every 5 years. Yeah, whether we vote right or we never get to vote right, I think that's going to be a conversation for another day, because we've heard what Masharia said the other day, that we usually vote in right, but it's manipulated. So that will make me not discuss whether we vote right today, although that I could have discussed that, but I'm going to hold on to that first. So once we exercise it indirectly, then we have the power now going to the three major organs of the government. We have the executive, we have the legislature, and the judiciary, with the executive wielding most of the power through policies, security, national resources. Um, Apart from the major three organs of the government, we have like independent bodies, like now the ESCC, the Office of the Auditor General. Yeah, we have the IEBC as independent organs that also check the government. But now the problem that we have is one. Yes, we have this. Yes, we all these organs have powers allocated to them. Uh, it was foreseen that they will have failures. That's why they had to put in checks. But then these powers are so intertwined in a way that, in one way or another, they manipulate each other, and for that reason, like they can't operate like fully. There's no independence. There's no independence amongst some of these institutions. You know, and one thing we have to acknowledge. I remember when we Ruto was sworn in, and once he was sworn in, we saw a very big change happening in the parliament. Every time we have a president in power, he will always try to have a lot of MPs on his side, because the executive is checked by the parliament. And now here is where you're going to start seeing the shortcomings of these independent bodies. Because now you'll find that the parliament in its own, it fails to exercise its power because of a lot of party influence. And we see this happening even right now, that ODM came into government. you'll see a lot of reshuffle in the in the house. Like some of those committees headed by people from UDA, you can see them now being reshuffled by people from ODM. It depends with the people who are in the executive table. And this means that it will be hard. I mean, it will be very, very hard for the for the house to check the executive, because now there's a lot of influence from the party, and there's also a lot of the influence from the executive, whereby you hear there's a lot of bribing that goes on. We go to the judiciary, you'll find that the judiciary is also influenced a lot by the executive, limiting its power again, because there are times we hear that they're underfunded, there are times the executive uses the police to threaten the judges sitting in the judiciary. So it cripples its functions, and it's really, really hard to operate as an institution, the judiciary itself. You look at independent bodies like ESCC, you see, they don't have a power to prosecute. The DPP has to come in, and the DPP really fails them so much as an institution, you know. So they never really get to prosecute any people that they get to arrest with those corruption problems. Yeah, you look at our nini our the IEBC also has a body that has to check elections. From the 2022 elections, we don't have a constituted body, and this is a body that we expect to deliver to us a free and fair election. We see a lot of politics going in now, and you can see how the executive is coming into play. It's crippling that body. Yeah, you find maybe there are also bodies like the the office of the attorney general. Their funding sometimes can also be cut when the executive feels so they can do that. And now those are the problems that we have to talk about. We also have like I know the question I wanted to bring on board as we talk is, how can we ensure independence, the ESCC, Office of the Auditor General, the IEBC? How do we ensure that they're not influenced by other organs, that one organ can just get to check another without having any repercussion towards them, you know? Yeah, like now, you like now we can't have a country where, like the other day tulikuwa tunaona the chief justice, her life was being threatened. We heard that her security was being withdrawn. Yet to expect the judiciary to really, really do its work to to their best capacity. I mean, it's not going to work. You know, it's never going to work. When you see our MPs being influenced by their political parties, the party is going to tell you that you should vote this way. And these are people that we've delegated our power to them. Are they really going to check the exact to not here today? Yes, we have people who can check abductions going on. Until this year, it's still ongoing. A lot of abductions. The moment you express yourselves and your ideas outside, and the executive the police system feel like you're digging too much into what you're not supposed to be addressing, they will curb you. And now, how are we going to exercise this power? How are we going to check these powers? Because it doesn't like really lie in one place. Though we have to accept that the executive yields a lot of it. But now, how can you ensure that all these organs can check each other without being manipulated or without facing repercussions from the other? I think that's one thing I wanted to highlight. Yes, thank you, Hilary.
Thank you so much, George. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you very well. And thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you so much. I see many people joining. I see Rose. I see Professor Chiang. And many people. Welcome on board. Tamasha, I see you. Yes, Chacha, you have a mic now. You can go on, then Ronyo, then Western.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and I'm happy that we've sustained these conversations. I think today I'll want to really focus on something that the advisors of the president have failed. Much as he might have had some misses and hits, some hits and misses, I think he had room for him to adjust and sort of regain legitimacy. And my discussion today will revolve around legitimacy. So there are two ways that we look at legitimacy. The normative way, how governments come into power. Is it through methods or means that are universally accepted by the people? But also the most critical part, and this is where most governments, especially in our context, Kenya, we have gone wrong, is the empirical legitimacy, where based on the performance of the government or the regime in power, therefore they tend to be recognized and accepted by the people generally. And I think the Gen Z protest of last year, mid last year, was an opportunity that I think the president and his circle should have really, swung into action and probably I'm missing my words here. And probably tried to regain some form of empirical legitimacy. And I'd say this that after Kenyatta and Moi, I don't think Kibaki he came into office because he was elected, whether the elections had some challenges or not, that's immaterial. But he was elected. But in terms of actually gaining acceptance and recognition by the majority of Kenyans, I think that's why he's losing. And he has an opportunity, if he has good advisors, to also gain a legitimacy. I'm not saying that he should come back. I mean, he has messed up so many things, and I think he's on that trajectory. He has no intention whatsoever to change. He has used a very wrong approach in terms of trying to rebuild his legitimacy, and that is by patronage, by co-optation of the opposition, thinking that by reaching out to the opposition as opposed to the means through which he is making this decision, it's not accepted. I mean, you can look at a country like China, the way the way president is elected is not through universal suffrage, but they accepted. They accepted because example corruption, but at the same time make sure that the public or rather the Commonwealth build on that. And the approach he's using right now of trying to futile. So the other way that is going the Gen Z movement sort lost momentum along the way, although we did not have a clear I spoke. I think I spoke a few minutes ago and spoke about agriculture, value addition. I think he has missed on that. And truth be told, I mean, we can pretend they will need white collar jobs in the traditional definition of a white collar job. So I also think it's also an opportunity, and I think CBC provides an avenue if well implemented, that we our industrial needs, because so much focus. I mean, if you go to university, I remember when I was in college, the number of students who were doing Bachelor of Commerce vis-a-vis those who were doing engineering. They were quite engineering business management. So I think the president, as I learned, the president has sort of not taken advantage of this wake-up call to repression or coercion they're going to use. That legitimacy is not coming anytime soon. Now, to make matters worse, we now have a vice president, God forbid, and God forbid, with the president, God forbid something happens to the president. The vice president, the deputy but I mean, nobody ever thought that, and I think that's why, in part, he's really struggling to get a lot of to get support. I'm not in legitimacy as a leader, also as a deputy president. Thank you very much. I'm sorry where I was. I couldn't contribute
Thank you,
more.
thank you so much, Chacha. As people joining, as we check the state of question, number one, uh, in theory, we know Kenya has separation of powers. Among them is executive, legislature, judiciary. In practice, we see an LT. We usually see an LT, a concentration of power in only one branch. How can we correct this? Can we give a solution on, as we give this? Can these three arms of government have power and know what to be done? Ronyo, as you come in, and then Western on that order, other people will give you time, George. Let these people who have not talked also to give us as their views on the same as we checking and the balances of the power across the country. At the same time, when you have a mic, just mute your mic. It is important to carry up your hand. I'll give you a mic. And if you have a question, you can write it down there or a comment so that we can post it or we can ask the people on the platform, the speaker panel. Yes, go ahead, Ronyo.
Thank you so much, Hillary. Can you hear me?
Very well, bro.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate for the mic. Thank you for everybody who has spoken and those who are listening. I appreciate a lot. I'll try with my small knowledge to try and answer that question, Hillary. And as we discuss the state of the nation, check and balance of power, you have said clearly we have three arms of government, and the only one that seems to be working, seems not really working, is the judiciary. And the reason as to why the other, like uh, the parliament and I mean the legislature and also the executive, the reason as to why it's not working is because we have not. Somebody here said clearly that we have a problem of leadership, and Kasongos once clearly said that we have a deficit of leadership in Kenya, and I think I concur with him. And somebody was saying today there is the one thing that Kasongo has been able, because he's a lead, they always say symbol of national unity, and somebody said one thing that he has been able to do is to equalize corruption in the whole country. That one we can give it to him for sure. Because you look at the reason as well we will never have these arms of government working is because we cannot pinpoint one person. Maybe probably we can say two of them who are likely to be showing the signals of leadership. Signals they are showing, like, when the flight is flying and we have these tall buildings, they always show some signals so that the flight will not hit the tall building. So it's only Kangata and Dindi Nyoro who are showing the signs of leadership. The rest, the others, we don't have any leadership, any person who can really stand there and say, I am a leader. You look at all of them, and the reason as why executive can never work and cannot brag that we have leaders in that position, in that arm of government, is you look at most of those in legislatures. They will have to do everything the executive says, because somebody said clearly that there is for you to be successful in Kenya, the only way you can is to work with government, is for you to have businesses with government. You look at all these politicians, they are always, some of them always walk. We have seen some of them who walk around without cars, trying to garner votes, to ask for votes for people to vote for them. The moment they get inside that house, we remember there was one from Igembe, I think Igembe South or Igembe North, one MP who was a teacher. He went around asking for when he was elected as a member of parliament. We have never seen him. His teaching quality that he had in class, he wanted to bring to parliament, that disappeared the moment he went into that house. Because the moment you go to that house, I think everybody suspends their brain, and they no longer listen, or they no longer legislate, or they no longer represent the people. They only represent their stomachs, because the only thing after 5 years that grows, or the only thing that really shows that they have been in that house, is their stomach and the body. The body will change, it will transform, and even the cars, their family, you will see everything will change. But the people they lead, they leave them worse than they left them, than they found them. The problem we have in Kenya is not lack of resources. The problem we have in Kenya is not that people are not hardworking. The problem is we have is this cycle of 5 years. Our economy operates within 5 years. From these 5 years, after 5 years again, right now, and the project that these people will implement is the short-term project that will serve their interests for the next election. That's why somebody will come and say, we will start printing chapati, 1 million chapati, because it's a short-term project that will serve his interests, and connect with the people for the next few months or few years that are remaining for the next election. But nobody will talk about a project that will take longer. And you realize the only period we had a normal country is 2002, when he had a fair, according to what, and I concur with the SK Masharia, the only time we had a normal election is 2002, when we had a free and fair election, and somebody came in who was having ideas, and he had the interest of people at heart, who was having projects that are, even the other government that have followed, the government of the leadership of Uhuru and Ruto, they have been riding on the project that Kibaki started. They have not implemented any of their project, nothing. All the project that Kibaki has started, we can clearly see them. But these others, they have project that only serve them. And the problem we have, unless we make institution works, the three institutions, but these two will never work. The only institution I believe that can work is the judiciary, if they decide to, because they have enough leverage to not to be under the legislature and not to be under executive. But other institution will never work. The ESCC will never work, because you see the appointment comes from the president. He will appoint the people who will say yes to him. If right now somebody was talking about the deputy president, the deputy president was never elected by the people. He was appointed by the president. He can never challenge whatever the president does. So yeah, the people in parliament, they can never go against the president. There was an interview with the senator of Nakuru, and she clearly said she's the owner of Keroche. She was saying, I could not be able to vote no against the impeachment of Gachagua because I was being threatened. So these people work with the government, and the government is their biggest client in their businesses. So they will never say anything. So I think the only way we can have maybe a legislature or a parliament that works is to make sure that the people who goes there, maybe change the constitution to make sure that the people who goes there, they will never work with the government. That you cannot have a contract, you cannot work with the government and still serve the people, because that's a conflict of interest. Because the government is giving you contracts, probably to repair a certain road, probably to do certain thing. So if the government wants you to do anything, I mean, if the president, of course, is not even the government, if he wants you to do something, you have to obey, because otherwise you will lose that contract. And if we have that conflict of interest where the legislature, which is the parliament, and the executive are working together, people will never get development. There will never be development, because people are going there to serve their own interests. They are going to serve their families. You look at everybody that goes in parliament, after 5 years, they become billionaires. So I saw Ichungwa and Junet. They were against what this guy Dindi Nyoro is doing, and I actually was thinking myself, if these people can steal us into development, let them steal us into development. If Dindi was stealing and doing that development in his county, let them steal us into development. If they're stealing and doing development, that is the kind of stealing that we want. But if you're telling us somebody is stealing, but we cannot see anything that you did. Ichungwa was the chair of he was in the same position that Dindi was before they removed him. He was during Uhuru's time. He was the chair of whatever that position that Dindi was.
Budget
What did he?
committee.
Sorry, come again.
Sorry, budget committee. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yes. He was the chair of budget committee during Uhuru. What did he? He never did anything. So the people that we have, and actually we Kenyans deserve everything that is coming. Every problem we have, we deserve it, because we are the people who elect those people. And again, now that somebody clearly said, and Hillary asked a good question, why is SK Masharia talking right now? I think it's because he actually said clearly that he's 84 years. That's why even if they abduct him right now, he has nothing to lose. One of his friends died, and he's younger than him. So even if they abduct him, that's why he has courage to say, because I have done everything in this world. So literally, we are in a country where if you want to have freedom of speech, you have to hide your name. You cannot use the names in the ID, because the people will come for you. So that's why you are seeing people they will hide their identity if their voices have to be heard. That's the type of a country that we are in. You cannot have your ID name on or maybe on your X account or on your TikTok or whatever, and still speak your mind, because somebody will come for you. That is the kind of a country we are in. But we need to have a candid discussion where right now, how can we go into a next election and believe that we'll have a different set of leaders, when somebody says that the register that is going to be used includes dead people. How are we sure? There is one MP who is bragging. He's called that guy is called who? He's called he's from one of the constituency in Kiambu. He's called Kororia. That guy is called Kororia. He said, "I know you people are not going to vote for me, but come 2027, you will find me in parliament. They have that confidence. And maybe Kaongo has assured them, even if you stand with me, because even if they will not vote you in, we will find a way for you to get in. Sudi clearly said, even if Ruto will not have enough votes, we will add for him to be re-elected again. So they have that confidence that even if people are not going to vote for them, they will find their way into parliament. They will force their way into parliament. So how sure, how confident can we be that the next election will be fair and will be fair? And when Raila tells us that we should be silent, the country has to be we need peace in the country. We wait for 2027. We do election. Which election? When somebody says the register that is going to be used include dead people, and these people have that knowledge in them that even if we vote, our vote will not count. Then we should first have a candid discussion and say, let's first correct that area where we have a good working institution as a IBC, where we have people who are supposed to register, who are alive, who are voting, who are alive, who are voting, so that when we are going to vote, if I'm going to vote for member of parliament from my constituency, and from if I'm going to vote the choice of my president, I'll have my vote counting. So unless we do that, we will never have a normal country. We will have these abnormal and these issues of abduction and these issues of people being tortured and this issue of people not being respected and having their voices heard. We will continue even after 2027 unless we first stop everything. We do a renovation of the whole country. Thank you so much, Hilary.
Thank you so much, Ronyo, for that. Western, as you come in, the same question, but also in another. Let me add you one. If you add you one, we see the judiciary and the parliament. Their more core work was to check the executive power, but we don't see this thing is happening. We don't see any eviction. What is happening? Why are they not holding the executive power accountable? And where did we fail, or where do they fail? And now, how can we correct this going forward? Western.
Thank you, Hillary, and greetings to everybody. Hillary, before I respond to your question, I wish to say that Buddhists always say, and it's true, you cannot hide the sun, you cannot hide the moon, you cannot hide the truth. And I'm saying this in reference to S.K. Mashari's revelation. Well, why now, your question? It would have been ideal had he shared what he so candidly shared with the Kenyans and the rest of the world yesterday, much earlier. But there is no statute of limitation when it comes to when you're going to confess.